All right, hello and welcome back to the Worldwide Wolves podcast. This is episode 2. I'm here. I'm going to be in Pittsburgh next week, the next time we record, hence the name Worldwide Wolves. And of course, the co-host, Jake Painting, host of Howls and Growls on YouTube, is coming to us from, Jake, where are you from?
Melbourne, Australia. It is 8:47 a.m. It is freezing cold. That's why I'm in a hoodie inside my own house. And yeah, I'm excited to be back. Second episode. We're getting things off the ground here. Still got our training wheels on a little bit, but
Yep.
I'm excited to be back, dude.
Yeah, you guys all missed it. I started this episode and I mispronounced this own podcast name. I mispronounced Jake's name and I threw my laptop across the room. But now we're back. Now we're here. Yeah, it's actually 5:48. A full almost a day behind Jake. So the time zones are weird, but we're making it work and it's great. It's fun. Today in this episode, we're gonna talk kind of just centering around the Wolves' big man rotation, mainly Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, Julius Randle, because it's an interesting fit with all three of them, and the signs right now point to all three of them being back. The only one technically, I think, under contract right now is Rudy Gobert. Julius and Nas both have the player options, which they will accept or decline coming up. And our little discussion before this is that we're going to kind of go into this assuming Nas Reed either accepts the player option or just kind of gets extended here, just based on comments the Wolves have made basically since trading Cat and before that Nas is kind of the future at the position of power forward / center / backup center. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today, just the overall landscape of those three players. Yeah, Jake, you ready to get into that?
Yeah, it's a super interesting conversation. I mean, it's kind of weird to have a team that has three big men who all feel like they starter level or really should be featured on a team that's a really good team, and that two of them have player options right now, and that Rudy Gobert there's a lot of stuff swirling around him just in terms of his viability in the playoffs and his viability kind of as he gets a little bit older, and how much value a defense, an all defense, no offense guy has. Like we've spoken about Johan Berenjay in the last episode. So it's a funny topic to talk about, as in funny, strange topic to talk about,
Yeah,
because there's a lot going on there, and I have a lot of thoughts that I don't know how to organize. I don't
exactly.
know what I think fully. I don't know how this works, and I kind of hope the team knows more than me, because it's a weird one.
Yes, I think we should start at Nas Reed. Just
Hmm.
he's the one, in my opinion, that's going to be the most likely back. Or I mean, they all seem to be likely back right
Hmm.
now, which is a little strange. But yeah, just Nas Reed in general. Let's assume he's back at least just on the player option, maybe an extension, but we'll see. He is at a point in his career where he's kind of expecting to start. He said it at media day or the exit interviews that he thinks he's good enough to be a starting player. And we've seen it in spurts. And actually, in the, I think, 17 games that he started, I think he averaged 18 points, 9 rebounds. I think those were some of the best games that he looked all year when Julius was injured and Nas Reed slid in the starting rotation. Like, they didn't win as many games, and that's something we can discuss. But Nas Reed in the starter role, I thought looked really good. And then when Julius came back and when Nas was kind of put back to the bench, it was a lot more inconsistent. So very interested to see if the Wolves took anything from that and if they plan on kind of giving Nas that starting role. Of course, that would mean Julius is gone, so that's the other player. But just on Nas Reed, before we kind of transition, do you think he's a capable of enough player to be a starter on a championship team? Because that's what we want now, right? We've been in the Final Four twice, so that's the question we got to ask. Can Nas be the starting power forward or center, but power forward on
Hmm.
a championship Timberwolves team as soon as next year?
Yeah, I don't know. I think at the end of last season, we all would have said, I think he can. Like, I think this guy has a lot more room to grow. I think that obviously he's coming off the Six Man of the Year season, and he's obviously young as well. So it feels like this is a natural progression into being a starter. He works really well next to Gobert. He works really well. He's very lineup versatile in terms of what he can do. So I think the answer then was yes. You get this season. I don't think his numbers were any worse. I think his per 36 numbers were actually slightly better. Um, but then you get into the playoffs, and it does feel like, or you get into that post Randle injury when Randle came back. And it did feel like he was not that guy. I thought he was in his own head a little bit. We see that a lot around the league in contract seasons, that the guys do get a little bit kind of in their head, especially when their role is shifting in the way that Nas's was. So I think the answer is still up in the air. I think the type of player Naz Reid is works in today's NBA. And if you work in today's NBA, theoretically, you can play on a championship team. I think that teams like the Thunder and the Pacers and the Celtics, and they are teams that would play Naz Reid, 20 plus minutes a night, and feel confident they can go and win the championship in that season. So I think in that way, the answer is yes. For us, we might be a little bit more jaded because we're just coming off this playoff series, this playoff run where he wasn't very good. Like, he had his moments, but as a consistent player, it wasn't there. And especially in that Thunder series where I kind of thought this is a Nas Reed series. He seems to always play well against the Thunder. And the offense was hit and miss like it was with everyone, but the defense was really bad. And it felt like he was a weak link in that defense. And the Thunder make you feel like you have weak links. Like, if you have a weak link, they are going to press that button over and over again. So, again, my thoughts are unorganized because I don't know. I think that Nas Reid fits on this team. I think that starting Nas Reid, you'd get a better version of him. And I think extending him or, him opting into this player option would get a Nas Reid who isn't as worried about the contract, especially if you extended him. If he has multiple years on his deal, I think you get this Nas Reid who's playing with freedom. And last season, I remember, I think it was Nas himself saying, someone asked, why are you guys playing so well? Something along those lines. And he said, nobody's worried about their money. Everyone's got their money. Yep. Everyone's playing for the team. And I do think that at the end of this year, he was not that guy. Like, he was, and not in a selfish way but like, this is a lot of money that
in a human way. Yeah.
And a guy who spent a lot of his career being underpaid.
Yeah.
And obviously he got that the contract extension a few years back, and that's a lot of money, especially for people like us. But he probably would have felt like he was still underpaid. And he would have thought, this is my season where I'm going to get $30 million a year after this, and that's going to set me up for life, and that's going to be my value. I'm going to be paid what I'm worth. And it kind of went haywire at the end of the season. I felt like he was in his own head. So I think Nas Reid can be. He's a player. He's a bit of a luxury player. Like, you can have him on your team. He does a lot of great things. He makes you better, but he is someone you need to plan around. And that's kind of that's where we're at with all three of these guys. Julius is the same, Rudy's the same, and that's where the conundrum kind of comes in for the front office.
Yeah, you mentioned the just overall getting in his head, and I think that probably played a huge role, like you mentioned, when he was put back on the bench for Julius, and that continued into the playoffs. And you're playing different minutes every night. It's so different. And I do think you put him in the lineup. He's only getting more into his prime here. I think you put him into the starting lineup, and he's just going to be more comfortable in his role. And I think that's big. You mentioned with Rudy that he plays well. You're right. 101.6 defensive rating, plus 11.4 net rating this last season. I mean, that's pretty damn good. And I suspect if he's starting at least for one more year, Rudy will be the starting center. So that would work, because Nas he's a liability on defense, at least for the most part still. So having Rudy there is at least someone that's damn close to being like Rudy is a pretty big necessity. But right now they've got that. So if I had to choose one power forward out of the two that are, in the air right now to start, I would choose bringing back Nas and starting him, which allows us, I guess, to transition to Julius Randle. He's also got a player option around 30.9 million to 31 million, right around there. So more expensive. And that's about what his extension, I think, would look like if the Wolves were to give it to him. The difference with Nas is his player option's 15. If he gets an extension, it's closer to double that, 25, 22 million, not going to be 15 million per year, which is what his player option is. So Julius is going to be more money, and I'm not fully convinced that he's the better fit for this Wolves team if they want to go where they're trying to go. In the playoffs, he was awesome. The first two rounds, I mean, he was electric. He was their best player for a lot of those games. Thunder series, I don't want to say we saw like Knicks Julius, but like we saw what we were warned about, like playoff Julius Randle. And it's not like we were going in with a power forward. If we didn't have Julius, that was great in the playoffs, talking about Karl-Anthony Towns. So like,
and everyone was bad in that series. I think that's worth pointing out that it wasn't. This isn't.
We just mentioned like the other guy, Naz Reid.
Rudy was bad. Ant for his standard was bad. Like,
but Julius,
OKC.
With Julius, you'd be paying him, and he would have the role and the pedigree of being not the guy, but like the second guy, at least second and a half, like on the totem pole there of offensive game. And I guess, are you relying on Julius for even this year, a 3-year contract extension, to be that guy that is, the second guy for Ant, one of the key playmakers on this team, to really push them over the edge? And I don't think I would say right now that Nas Reed is better than him, but if I had to give an extension to one of them, I think it would be Nas Reed. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think
it's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. The question I think here is who is your second option if you let go of Julius Randle? And that's not saying, and I mean, I don't believe that Julius Randle is a ideal second option. But he is a second option for this team.
He would be if he's on the team. Like, it's more open if he's not on the team.
Yeah, and a team needs a second, obviously. Like, you need a good second option. You need Jalen Williams. You need, Jalen Brown. Sorry. This is a really important role. And just as a side note, one thing that I've been thinking about is, can your second option be a 4, and be a championship team? And if you go through let's just go through a few of the champions. So we've got Jalen Williams was the second option. Jaylen Brown, Jamal Murray, Chris Middleton, or Drew Holiday, whichever one. It's Chris Middleton. When was Kevin Durant or Steph Curry, whatever way you want to slice that up? Like, when was the last time a big man was the second option on a team? And I don't know if that's just a coincidence kind of thing, or is it because you need multiple ball handlers? And Julius can handle the ball. You can give him the ball and ask him to do things for you. And we've seen in the playoffs, we've seen the back end of the season, he can do that. But I think, can you have a second option on a great top of the mountain team that's two best players don't handle the ball, don't run pick and roll, don't get into the middle of the floor and play make off the dribble, not from a post up, but from a more motion kind of pick and roll isolation kind of way. And like I said, that could just be a coincidence that these great teams have had.
It's a long coincidence.
I don't have the list in front of me, but I can't remember the last team that had the second option. I mean, maybe it would have been Indiana if they won, like it would have been Siakam, but he's kind of more wingy than Julius.
They just have like 5 first up. Like, they don't, they're kind of insane.
Yeah. And that is a tangent because that's the question for me between Nas, and if you were to just say, you know what, Julius, thank you for everything you've done. He says, I'm going to opt out and test the market, or I'm going to opt in and go all the way to free agency. So that's kind of the two options you have if you are letting go of Randle, is you either hope that he opts out or he opts in and you don't look to extend him.
Or you trade him.
Yeah, or he opts in and you trade him. So, in that case...
I think there's like a 0% chance, in my opinion, he opts out this year. He's not going to opt out. Unless for some, Brooklyn did some weird shit in the draft, but I don't think they're going to give Julius Randle $35 million a year. So the options are opt in and get extended, or opt in and get traded. It's hard for me to see him,
or just opt in and the team says, "Cool, we're going to run this for one more season."
I guess,
and then we're going to let you walk.
I guess,
or they try and trade him at the deadline.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting because all the qualities you mentioned of that second option, they all fit Julius far better than they fit Nas, at least, for now. Maybe Nas keeps developing, but, just that ball handler, guy that can take the ball up, run pick and roll, and just be a playmaker is much more Julius.
And someone you can just give the ball to. Sometimes you just need to Anthony Edwards needs someone he can give the ball to and go and stand in the corner for a possession. That is just how it works. You can't. Anthony Edwards cannot have a 40% usage rate or you won't win the championship.
Yep. So Julius right now is that better option over Nas, but I'd rather have Nas and then replace Julius with a better second option. It's really that easy, actually. Tim Conley, I don't know if you're listening,
well,
but
yeah, it's not a hard job, is it? We really should
no.
have this job. But
So yeah, that's my
I
path, but it's not easy, which is why they might end up running it back. Because I mean,
yeah, I
that
think they
second
will. I
option,
think they
yeah.
will run it back. But I don't think that they should extend him. They might extend him. I don't think that's. I think it's definitely a possibility. But and maybe they'll do it just to protect the asset of Julius Randle,
Okay.
the salary slot.
So you think they could extend both Nas and Julius, which would just
I
keep
think
Nas as a sixth man for 4 years? I don't think he'd. I don't know. If
I think they might extend him and then look to trade him. But to me, that doesn't really make sense. Like I think you're probably better off trying to trade him as an expiring
for
at the
sure.
deadline.
Yeah.
And I just think, I think that's the roadblock here is who is your second option if Julius Randle isn't there. And I think, we've been kind of talking like, is this too reactionary? That's the thing we want to talk. We want to kind of weave into some of these conversations. And is this too reactionary is, I think the month we saw of Jaden McDaniels when Randle was out can be a real thing all the time. Like I think that you saw this enthusiasm and like the whole game of Jaden McDaniels perk up once he realized like, oh, I'm going to get the ball a lot here and I'm going to be asked to do a lot of things. And I saw you posted a tweet a few weeks ago. Yep. I went through every possession as well. Maybe 3 nights ago of Jaden in that time. And like that's a real dude, in my opinion. Like he was running pick and roll, coming off those kind of pin downs from the corner and then flowing into mid pick and rolls. It wasn't just, oh, Jaden's in the corner now, but he's not shooting threes, he's driving instead. Like that's a great development in Jaden's game. But I think it's like, oh, we can give this guy the ball. His handle improved heaps this season. Like he became, and it's still not, it's not crossing dudes over, but I can take 6 dribbles now and get it to my spot and I'm not going to turn the ball over. So to me, that's like, I don't think this is the team's opinion, but my opinion is that I would like to see Nas start. I would like to see Jaden start, and I would like to see Jaden and Nas both take a tick up in usage. And I'd like to see Jaden do all the thing that appeals to me about that option is Jaden can be your 4 on offense because Nas can be your 3 on offense. And maybe a 3 just means standing in the corner and shooting threes because you don't get that from Randle or Jaden.
Interesting. Yeah.
Jaden can set ball screens. Jaden and Ant ball screens worked every time they tried it this season. And it wasn't often. But I think of that Thunder game that they came back. No, maybe not the one they came back and won. The one that they won just in a good game while Julius and Gobert were out. I think there was a Houston game in there where for the last 5 minutes they ran Jaden Ant pick and roll. And the reason is Ant is good at making a short roll bounce pass. It doesn't feel like it because when he does it to Gobert, nothing comes out of it. And Randle sets screens and uses it to peel off for a switch, and he gets into that same position that Cat did, that kind of like high high free throw line area where he'll
scary one. Like what the hell is going to happen here? Yep.
Yeah, where he'll kind of set the pick and then go and stand there and turn with a good matchup, and that works at times. It worked in the playoffs really well, but like I think Jaden can take a pass at the free throw line, a bounce pass, take 2 dribbles, and finish at the rim over people or through people or make a pass to the corner or throw a lob to Rudy. Like, I think that is, maybe it's just me, that intrigues me, that kind of thing. Like maybe I'm kind of living in this world where I'm like, that feels cool to me. That maybe, you're not getting like Jaden's never been this high usage player that Randle has been and that Randle can be consistently. Like he wants to shoot 15 to 20 shots every game, and that's a valuable thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like I want Jaden setting ball screens. I want Jaden in the dunker spot, and I want him to be like a big man, which he is. He finishes so well around the rim, and I think if he does that and he handles the ball a little bit more, runs some pick and roll, this is a guy who can average 18 points a game, 20 points a game.
Yeah.
And
I
I
mean,
don't think you can do that with Julius, not just because he wants the shots, but because stylistically, you can't just plonk him in the corner and say you're going to space the floor while Jaden and Ant run pick and roll. But you can do that with Nas, because I don't think Nas is a second option. I
agree.
think Nas can average 2 or 3 more points a game, and I think he can shoot threes, and I think he's someone who warps a defense with the threat of his shooting. And so I'm kind of like, can we get the second option by committee, by Jaden and Nas? And then we're more athletic, we're faster. I think we're maybe not as, there's not as much playmaking, which is probably an issue, but you solve that by getting a point guard that's not 40 years old.
Yeah.
And you solve some of the second option with another point guard too. You don't have a guy who averages 8 points like Mike does. Maybe you get someone who can average 12 points. And all of a sudden you've got an extra 15 points or something from point guard X, Jaden Leap, Nas as a starter, Anthony Edwards you feel like is probably going to average more points every season, or incrementally get better. So that would be the ideal path for me. Would be let's get this second option by committee. Let's play with the style that makes more sense for Jaden and Nas and Ant, and let's try and replace Julius that way, even though it is replacing someone who's a good player. Like I don't think they should extend Julius Randle, but I'm not going to sit here and say he wasn't a valuable part of this team at the back end of the season.
For sure. Yeah, in that month where it was Jaden McDaniels starting, and well, he was always starting, but no Julius Randle, and we got more just Jaden on offense. He did average 18.5 points per game. He was playing 37 minutes per night, 20% usage, 8.4 rebounds, 56% from
those
2 on
rebound
10
numbers.
attempts per game. Yeah. Like he was taking.
Because he's engaged. I think he's got a bit of Andrew Wiggins. That's a
maybe
cursed thing to say in this part of the world. But I think you need to keep him engaged offensively, and he's always engaged defensively. That's where he's not Andrew Wiggins. He will always be valuable because he wants to kill his opponent defensively, and that's my favorite thing about him is that he hates everyone.
Yep.
But if you keep him engaged offensively, it's a really talented player there, and I think and a talented player who fits. Going back to our last episode, fits that timeline. These timelines, like he can be at the top of that pyramid next to Anthony Edwards if he's averaging 18 points a game. And maybe you need to backfill a little bit of his defense because you can't be expecting him to.
Well, yeah, I mean, you brought up something that I thought is worth mentioning. And like this whole second option by committee thing is scary right now when it's just Jaden McDaniels and Nas Reed. It's like that.
And I can see why someone would say, Jake, that's a dumbass idea.
Well, but the
I'm
point
not
you brought up, though,
that.
is that you add in there what I would love is a trade for a point guard that maybe involves one Julius Randle. And then your second option by committee is Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, and I don't know, dare I say De'Aaron Fox, Kobe White, Colin Sexton, he's a step down. But you have the second option by committee where the third guy in that committee isn't Mike Conley. And we're going to have a whole Dillingham conversation another day because he is the most interesting player on the team to me, just in how he fits. But I don't think next year he can be that second option committee guy. Like he might be. He's a really great backup point guard, I think, next year. He's going to be 20 years old, 21, either way. Very, very young guy next year. So, yeah, if they can – they're a point guard away from me being like – championship team. They're trading Julius for a really good point guard. Yeah,
the point guard makes sense. Makes the Julius stuff make more sense. Like if Mike Conley is their starting point guard, I think maybe they just do need to keep Julius Randle because you do need someone you can give the ball, you can run offense through, who can be an offensive hub. Because Conley isn't that, and I don't think Conley should start next season. I would rather start Rob, and not in a way where I'm like, oh, Rob's going to be. Just the superstar. But I just think that they need what Rob brings. They need someone who can dribble the ball into the paint and score. And I mean,
unfortunately, Rob is a wingspan is 6'3" So
but the video I don't have the photo up right now. I can find it, but the video I did a few weeks ago of about Rob and about just this kind of dilemma that they're in. Like Rob took, what is it? So Rob took 24 less shots in the paint than Mike Conley did last season. He played 1,240
God.
minutes less, and he shot 16% better in the paint.
Really?
And that's on rim attempts and floater attempts, anything that's inside the paint. Mike Conley shot 41.9% in the paint last season and shot 131 attempts in almost 1,800 minutes. And Rob shot 56.7% on 107 attempts in 500 minutes. And that's better than Dante and Nikhil as well. So even at, I feel like the worst he's ever going to be as a finisher, Rob, just in terms of experience and size and strength, was still clearly their best finisher in that guard crop this season. And that's what I mean when I was talking about in the last episode, athleticism. Sometimes athleticism is just, can you beat your man? Can you take if the guys in gap help on Anthony Edwards shifting, creeping over toward Ant, can you take that pass and
hit
go?
That three or hit the three?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's the difference. That's the swing skill for Rob is, can you hit the three? Because Mike Conley can hit the three, but he can't do anything else, and that's the problem at the moment.
And sometimes he can't hit the three.
Yeah, and his numbers in the playoffs on drives, I think he shot 28% on drives in the playoffs. Pick and roll numbers off the top of my head, I think was 0.5 points per possession in the pick and roll, which is like 0th percentile. Like there was just nothing there in terms of creating off the bounce for Mike. So if you don't get that guy, whether it's Rob, whether it's another guy, whether it's someone who can just give you like 14 points a night, if you don't get that guy, keeping Julius makes more sense. If you can get that guy, then you can kind of start to fill out that committee that we're talking about around and I mean, I just think style matters so much. I think the way you play around your star player matters so much, and I don't think Julius fits that mold. And that doesn't mean that, like, I think Julius earned $35 million a year or $30 million a year on his next contract in the playoffs, and I don't want to, diminish what he did in the playoffs because I love the Timberwolves and I love Julius Randle winning them games in the playoffs because that's just not something we've seen. But if we're talking about, hey, we're getting a little bit older, a couple of these pieces on our team are starting to drop off, what's the style, what's the identity that we're going to have in this immediate next step with Anthony Edwards? I just don't think that Randle fits that immediate identity. And I think that Nas and Jaden and point guard X, hopefully, do fit that identity. And I think you can still be a good team even if you lose your good players, is if you play a different way. So that's I don't think that's going to happen. But when I think about what I want to see, I think that is what I want to see.
Yeah, and when thinking about all these guys, Rob Dillingham, everyone else, it's how do they play, like you mentioned, around Anthony Edwards, especially if you're inserting Nas into the starting lineup. But for what it's worth, Rob Dillingham plus 8.7 net rating next to Anthony Edwards last season. So I think he plays, not shocking, he plays better with the best player on the team, but like that's important. With Julius Randle, he had a negative 11 net rating. So yeah.
He also shot 48% from three when he played next to Ant.
I knew there was a stat. I was like, what was the stat that I saw?
26.5% when Ant wasn't on the floor. So, and it's hard with Rob, these, you can take some of these numbers with a grain of salt because
it's all we got,
and he's playing against third stringers a lot of the time. But I think that Ant makes players better, and maybe not in the Luka Doncic kind of way, but he makes players better because he draws so much defenders towards him. So can you use that? And I don't think Randle is a very good advantage taker. I think Randle creates advantages for other guys. Like, he is a good passer out of the post. He is the kind of guy who can collapse a defense as well as Ant. But can he make Ant's gravity work better? I don't know if that really makes sense, but is he the type of guy that
no, it makes it absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the Jaden, Nas, Rob, Terrence Shannon Jr.
Who they can take advantage of them doubling Anthony. I know what you mean.
Yeah. Or even just the defense, the whole defense is a step closer to Ant. If he's on the side, everyone on the court is a step closer to Ant than they would be if it was, Mike Conley or even Rob dribbling the ball. And I think you need speed. I'm so into speed on this team at the moment. I feel like they're slow, and I feel like slowness isn't going to work, especially as they keep getting slower as these guys get older.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I guess we could talk about Rudy. We haven't really talked about Rudy. We've just
No,
hit
we haven't.
everyone else on the roster.
I think
Yeah,
we might have had some like built up, things to talk about Julius. We don't talk anymore. Like we have,
it's been a
different jobs,
while.
and I
Yeah.
talk
Oh man.
on the house and browse, but I never get to actually talk to a human being.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's great. I
So
guess
what are your thoughts on Rudy? I want to know because we haven't spoken about this at all. I want to
yeah.
know what you thought of the playoffs from Rudy, what you think of the fact that, the same conundrum that we've always had with Rudy, that is like he hurts your offense and he holds up your defense. And I just want to, and obviously he's getting older and they've just drafted a long-term replacement for him. But like, what do you think of Rudy Gobert, I guess? Like, I know that everyone appreciates what he's done for this team, but starting in next season, first game of the season, like, what do you think of Gobert?
Ideally, he's not your starting center on a championship team, but also realistically, you're not moving on from him and Julius. So if I had to like choose one to stay, it still would be Rudy. Like his floor raising in the regular season is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the playoffs, as you continue to build out this roster, you can and as Rudy gets older and maybe more understanding that hey, you're older, you're not as good. You don't have to force him into these games as much in the playoffs. So I'm keeping him around for another season. I don't really have a huge problem with it. I do think his defense is there. I do think he is a step slower. Certainly his defense is not nearly what it was. But when someone tells me Nas Reed is your starting center, I really want to panic and freak out because I don't like that at all. So unless they had a plan to replace him with someone that can give you 85% of what he does on defense, which it's not like that's not as hard as it used to be. But I don't think they're going to be able to do that. So overall, I'm rambling, but my thoughts on
No,
Rudy,
ramble away.
my thoughts on Rudy are I'm fine with him being the starting center on this team, mentoring the new French guy, Bernier. Yeah, absolutely. Like mentoring that guy, helping out Anthony Edwards a little bit more, and just being the defensive anchor in the regular season, helping him get to 48 wins, 50 wins would be great. But just like, I don't know, I'd love for them to push for a home playoff series to start the playoffs. And in the playoffs, let's see. I think another year of Jaden development, Ant development, the young guys. I think all of that put together can kind of make up for what you're losing with Rudy Gobert because the NBA is getting further away from the style of Rudy. It's not like other teams are just some are, and it's not like teams are fully getting away from big men, but you're right. Like the Pacers play fast, Thunder play fast. Rudy Gobert against those teams, we saw it against the Thunder, but also against the Pacers. I think it would have been rough. But I think they're going to have enough lineup adjustments or just overall tools to make up for the Rudy conundrum. Again, is he your ideal center on this team? Probably not. It'd be great if he had any semblance of an offensive game. Anything really at all. But he doesn't. And that's just something we're going to have to deal with. So,
yeah. I think you organized my thought there better than I
kind of
can.
disorganize my own thoughts, actually.
But I think to put it in a really simplistic kind of dumb way, like I don't think they can win without him or with him. And that kind of sounds weird, but I think you can win, you can compete with Gobert. But I do think as the roster is currently constructed and as the asset pool that they have, like you can't go out and get 85% of Gobert defensively, who's also a modern day offensive big. Like that's
right.
If they, I think in an ideal world, they would go and get someone better than Gobert. And I think there are plenty of players out there who make more sense than Gobert. But like, can you get that guy? Probably not. Is Naz Reid that guy? No. Is Julius Randle that guy? No. Like,
it'd be great if they had a guy like,
yeah,
Naz Reid, like he can replace Julius Randle kind of, but man, they really don't have. It's not Luka Garza. Like they don't have a guy even close. And if I was presented with a row of options, I'd be better at being like, okay, I'd rather have these guys, but they don't have that, and it's hard to just trade him out for a center, like
exactly, yeah, exactly, and like I just think they're still in that conundrum with Gobert that they need they need him defensively. And if
Dude, they
we're
don't even
talking
have
about
like a backup center, like
yeah, like we're talking
they
about
need
putting
him.
Rob Dillingham into the starting lineup or putting him into 25 minutes a game or 20 minutes a game. Like you need Gobert for that. And I've soured on Gobert over the season just because again, like I want speed, I want, dribble, pass, shoot. I want modern type of players. And I'm a little bit obsessed with that at the moment, with this modern style of game that I think the NBA has evolved into and will continue evolving into. And Gobert isn't that, and that will never be that. But when you're looking at realistically the options are right now, you trade him for another big. I don't know who that would be. Like, I don't even have a name for you who you could possibly trade, like who makes sense for both teams. Naz Reid or Randle, not a 5.
No,
Baron J.
it's not even a question. Like,
Baron J 2 years away from being viable. So I think
that's my thing with Naz Reid. Rudy Gobert. It's just the basic one sentence. Do I want him? No. Do they have anyone else who can fill what he's giving you? No. Like, it's
and that
weird.
feels like almost like you're dissing Rudy, but you're not, because it's like the NBA is evolving past him, but you're still acknowledging that there isn't a way to get better than him. If he was just a terrible player, there would be an easy way to get better than him. But there isn't, because he's still a valuable NBA player. He is going to help you win games. When it really matters, I don't think he does. I mean, he had a couple of big games in the playoffs, but he was benched a lot in the playoffs. And I thought Finch handled the big rotation really well in the playoffs. Like, I think that he picked and chose the right time, to play small, to play with Rudy. And I think in those first 2 series, that helped them win those series. And in the Western Conference Finals, I just think that Finch, like, none of the options worked. It didn't matter when he pressed the buttons; they were always going to be terrible buttons. So I think you need to play. I feel better. I mean, it might not even work, but I feel better that they've at least said, like, hey, Baron J plays like Gobert in a more modern way, so we're going to get him.
Yeah, it's clear they know that Rudy is going, because there was also like every Kevin Durant rumor was like, Wolves are trying to get Rudy. Like, they know, like, they're not shocked by any of this. So maybe they do try to fix it. There's just really no way to do it this year.
And when you've got 2 guys on player options, which, I mean, I think this is unlikely, but potentially both of those could go. Those guys could go this offseason. Like, in some way, sign and trade Brooklyn. It's not going to happen probably, but like, there is a potential world where Randle and Nas don't play on this team next season. Like a world that is feasibly possible.
Rudy's the only one secured under contract.
So I just think you roll with Rudy again. Maybe you hope Anthony Edwards can throw a lob this season. Maybe you hope that Rob Dillingham, like, he can throw lobs and he can actually, get into the paint and force defenders to kind of leave Rudy. And you just say, look, he's going to be good defensively. Even if he falls off another 10% defensively, like, the team is way better defense. In the playoffs, it was something like 11 points better defensively when he was on the court, like, which is just insane, like 100th percentile insane. It was the opposite offensively.
Right. That's the whole conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, he's under contract. He makes sense in terms of like a team and a coach that wants to be defensively minded. He helps Jaden. He helps Ant with screens. He helps Ant defensively. He's going to help Rob defensively. I just think you're going to have to go one more year with him, or at least to the deadline. Maybe if the season's not going well, maybe if there's an unhappy player somewhere else, in a team that wants Gobert, to come and be a culture setter, then you can trade him. But I think an ideal big man rotation for me would be, I don't think they need 3 bigs. Like, I don't think they need all 3 of them. I think they need 2 of them. I think Jaden can be a backup 4 or 4.
3 bigs, but one of them is Jaden, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you can play small. I think you can play small ball lineups with Shannon and Clark. Like bench lineups, obviously, against benches. But
and everything they've said this offseason has indicated they really want to do that,
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Leonard Miller's ever going to play a minute, but at some point, maybe you just say, like, we're going to give you 5 minutes tonight because we don't have 3 big men that need 25 minutes a night. Like I think losing one of them, either, trading Julius for a point guard or Nas leaves or, Julius opts out, or I think you open up a lot of other avenues that right now I just don't think you can open up when you have 3 bigs who all need 25 minutes a game on your roster.
Yes, I agree. So I think we're in kind of agreement here that if we had to choose, that we would bring back Nas, Rudy, they'd start, Jaden starting. Julius, you figured out. I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to take long. Just, kind of throw an answer out. If you had a package, sorry, it's very simple, really. But if you had the package of Julius and salary filler and whatever the hell else, who's your ideal point guard that has been rumored around the Wolves?
You said just answer this quickly. I don't know. Obviously, the Darius Garland stuff makes a ton of sense to me, especially if Rudy's on the roster because he's awful defensively. But I just don't think the Wolves have the package to trade for Darius Garland.
Well, because it includes Jaden McDaniels, and I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that at all, and I just don't think.
Then they don't. Yeah, simple.
And if he's super on the trade block, someone will outbid. It's the same as Derek White would be perfect.
You're right, yeah. But
there's no chance the Wolves get Derek White because if they're taking calls on Derek White, the Wolves are one. They're not the call they're on for the longest.
Can we interest you in Leonard Miller?
Luka Garza has a team option.
Yeah. All right. Well, then on the next, is Kobe White on the next? He's kind of in between.
Yeah, Kobe White, Colin Sexton. Both of those guys I think would help this team. I know they're both bad defensively.
Tyus Jones.
I think no.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not getting into that with you, Cooper.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I think you need a guy who can again, goes back to kind of my speed obsession at the moment, but I think you also you need a guy who can create their own shot. It's just kind of crazy that they don't have a guy, any other person who can dribble, who can run a pick and roll. I think it's Jaden. They don't seem to think it's Jaden, or they don't seem to trust that he can do it over 82 games.
We just haven't seen it, and for a championship team.
So, and is Colin Sexton or Kobe White, are they championship level point guards? Probably not. But are they guys?
Conley,
Yeah, exactly. and do they make this team better? Yes. And is this team being better might end up being 53 or 54 wins, and that's an exceptional season. So I would take either of those guys. Obviously, you wouldn't include Jaden. I'd be happy to include kind of anyone who's not, Jaden, the obvious guys.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd trade Rob for a Colin Sexton just because it's.
Would they? I don't think they would have to. I've seen that thrown out there though.
Because that's we spoke about it in the.
He's 18 million expiring.
Yeah.
You don't have to throw. I mean, maybe just for the second April.
We spoke about it in the last episode, pushing your chips in, and that's Rob. I think is an asset that is a chip that you'd push in, but you're not going to push those chips in for Colin Sexton.
Yeah, you do it for Kevin Durant. You don't do it.
Yeah, I would have drove Rob Dillingham to the airport myself for Kevin Durant, and I think I'm in the minority there.
Dude, has anyone actually discussed on a podcast the Kevin Durant trade stuff? I don't think we did.
Did he get traded?
All right, we should probably wrap this up unless you have anything else.
No, I don't. I think we ranted here a little bit. Yeah. I don't hate Julius Randle. I know you don't hate him either. I think we might get, this, but I just think this team's in a weird roster building place right now.
We just saw him get smoked by the Thunder.
I think that matters. I think the fact that you've got blown out in 2 straight Western Conference Finals, there's something missing, and it's a good position to be in where one thing is missing or one or two things rather than being, the Kings or the Pelicans.
I know I just said we should end, but the cat trade. For 6 months after it was made.
Wait, no one's spoken about that on a podcast either.
But no, the return for 6 to 8 months or whatever. Everyone was like, "This is a transition trade," or it's just to get on to the next piece. And now it's 4-year extension for Julius Randle, and I'm what the hell went wrong?
Yeah.
We're back,
And if the name of the game was let's transition financially. And let's still get this guy in who's pretty damn good. Julius Randle's been an All-NBA player. Let's get him in for a season or a season and a half and try and we don't want to bottom out while we're gaining financial flexibility. They nailed that. They went back to the Western Conference Finals. It could not have gone better. if that was their plan.
Now time to
What
finish
would
it up, though. Yeah.
what would be weird is to be like, okay, now we're going to extend this dude for a ton of money and kind of detour from what we were trying to do by moving on to Nas and moving on to more financial freedom. We're going to give Julius Randle big ass extension like that. I agree with that completely. That doesn't make sense to me because you've done so well on that plan so far. Let's just stick to it. Don't get almost enticed by. It sounds stupid, like by the playoff run, because the playoff run matters.
Yeah, like it was
real.
but so does the last bit of the playoff run. But everyone was. It's such a weird conversation. But that's why.
And just like the first half of the season matters as much as the second half of the season. Like Randall was at minor. I think the Wolves was 5.6 points per 100 worse when Randall was on the court this.
And I hate to be that guy, but is Julius Randle the same player when he has 4 years of guaranteed money on his contract? You know, we don't know. Yeah, and he's only getting older. He's 31 right now. Like,
yeah, and just the inverse of that, the Wolves were 8.2 points per 100 better when Naz was on the court.
Ooh, extended.
Yeah. So it's weird because it was just to finish that point off. It was before the season. It was the obvious take was Randall out, Nas in eventually. But the playoffs happened, and I understand why anyone would say, "Jake, you're an idiot. Like, did you not just watch the playoffs? Like, Nas was bad, Julius was good, and the playoffs are the most important thing." So I understand that point of view as well.
Yeah. And to that point, I would redirect you to the first 46 minutes of this, where we tried to dispute that entire thing. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. This was a blast. I think this episode I was a little nervous. I was rusty, but I think I shook it off. I think this went well. I had a lot of fun. I'm glad we're doing this.
This was our Julius Randle second half of the season episode.
Trade us. Get us out of here. All right. Oh, man. Anything else from you? Are you ready to get out of here?
No, I'm ready. I can hear my child crying. So
me too. Maybe someday.
So that is that's me.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys. Hit the like button, comment your thoughts, tell us we're idiots or that we're not. Either way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.